You want to go ahead and hit record? Yeah, go ahead and hit record. Yes.
Good afternoon, everyone. We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'll go ahead and pray. Heavenly Father, thank you for today. Pray you'd help us to discern and be able to have a good, honest exchange of ideas, and just pray you be glorified, and knowing that we all have the same interest at heart to provide a great service to our seniors in our community. We ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Yeah. Can you advance this slide?
Mr. Mayor, may I take it away?
It's all yours.
All right, well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Craig Crosset. I think I've had the pleasure of meeting each of you. First, I just want to thank you for giving up your afternoon to come spend some time with other leaders in our community in our effort to move us forward for the Senior Center. So we're really excited to get together with you and discuss, a path forward and some ideas on how maybe we can improve these important services for this population in Goddard that's really important to us. So I know that over the last, maybe it's been a couple of years now, there's been a lot of time and effort that has gone towards serving the seniors in our community, and I just want to tell you again how thankful I am for that and for the work that you guys are doing. It doesn't go unnoticed. So today we're going to go through a few different topics of discussion. Here you see an agenda in front of you, but one of the first things that I wanted to share with you guys this afternoon was just kind of a little update on what's been going on over the last couple of weeks. So as you guys know, our part-time Senior Center Director resigned a few weeks ago, and her last day was effective last Friday. But when we received news of her resignation, our immediate reaction was to post the job as it was originally budgeted for, which was to have a part-time director. Our goal was, let's get this posted and let's get this position filled. And soon thereafter, we started advertising for the position. We started getting community feedback, which we're grateful for. Thank you for sharing that, letting us know that we might have outgrown a part-time position, which is no surprise because new wonderful programs seem to continue to pop up and expansion of current ones. And it was clear to us that part-time wasn't going to work for the Senior Center with the way it's continuing to grow, which is a blessing. So with that, we've taken these last few weeks to kind of try to take. Would you ignore that? I get lots of spam calls to my city cell phone, so my apologies. But we've taken the last few weeks to kind of take a 360-degree view of the situation. And we've done lots of research in peer communities and what their senior centers are doing and how they're operating and those sorts of things. We've had internal discussions with our attorney about some of the things that he's seeing, because he was an integral role in helping us kind of prop up this structure, which was a bit of a hurried situation when we did it a couple of years ago because we were ready to go. We kind of were sprinted out of the gate, so to speak, and had lots of conversation too with our council. We've had lots of one-on-one conversations with governing body members, but the most important piece of the puzzle is yet to happen, and that's what we're hoping to do today, which is have a listening session with the members of the Senior Center Advisory Board. So with that, I want to leave you with one other bit of information. Through all the information gathering we've done thus far, we've determined that it's something we're going to work towards very soon is hiring a full-time position for the Senior Center Director. So I've been working with our finance department, our CFO Brooke, to try to figure out how we can make the numbers work. And so that's something that we're going to be working toward. And this afternoon, we want to ask you guys some open-ended questions to better understand, what that full-time position should look like and how things should operate within that. So hopefully that would alleviate some concern as we kind of kick things off, just to let you know that that is the direction that we're heading in. We agree that it's necessary. The timing isn't perfect. One of the real fickle things about municipal finance is they expect us to prepare a budget 9 months before we're even actually living out that document, and so it can create some real challenges, and when needs arise, there can be some significant hurdles that we have to try to overcome. But because we're in a good financial position due to responsible spending of our council and great oversight from our chief financial officer, it looks like this is something that we'll be able to take care of in the near term. So what we would like to do next is, if you're an advisory board member, could you raise your hand? Is just everyone around the table here? Okay, we're going to give each advisory board member 5 minutes, and we just want to have give you an opportunity to share your feedback as far as how you feel like, what would we say, the last 18 months or so. Has it been 2 years yet that since we started the senior center? Time goes by fast, but share with us your feedback. What are the challenges and opportunities that you see? What do you feel are some things that have gone well, or what are some pain points? What is your vision? This is going to be one way, this section of the agenda. So you're going to we'll give you each 5 minutes, because we want to make sure that everyone, even the moderate voices, because sometimes we don't always hear from everyone, that everyone has a chance to provide that feedback. So we'll start with one, go through the advisory council, and then after that, our city attorney, Ryan Peck, he's worked with us on putting together some questions that we want to ask each of you as well. And during that time, we'll have two-way dialogue. So we'll ask the questions of you, and any of you can chime in. And if you want to ask a question from our question, you can do that, and we'll have a two-way dialogue between the Senior Center Advisory Board, the City Council, and the staff. So that's how we're going to spend the next hour and 20 minutes or so. We are going to have a hard stop at 5 p.m. so folks who have their evening scheduled can go do the things they need to do. And with that, I want to go ahead and open it up first. Karen, would you like to lead us off, or if you wouldn't like to, someone else can, and we'll just go around this way, because it looks like all of us except for one are on the same side of the table. Thank you, guys.
And I think you know our names, but when you speak, would you mind saying your name?
My name is Karen Keatley. I'm a volunteer at the Senior Center. I've seen the day-to-day experiences that our part-time director had. She could not get everything done in the 8:30 to 4:30 time block that she was given. Some of the activities didn't even happen then, so she wasn't available to be there for our bingos or an evening activity, because it was structured that that was her time and she had to be there. I also saw that she had to go over to the city to have lots of meetings every week. My question is it something that she had to be there for each time? Because it took away from her time doing stuff in the senior center. I've already said I won't do computer stuff, and that's what, she was making the event calendar, she was writing the newsletter, and then sending it to Becky Funky to take care of. That took up a lot of her time, so a lot of times she couldn't even come out and greet the seniors that were coming in. And I don't mind the job, but some of them didn't even know who Ella was, because they never were able to see her. I'd like, if it's possible, we get a full-time director that person could be more available to meet the seniors and be part of our group. And it's a community group, we all work together. We have lots of volunteers, not just me. I've noticed after reading the bylaws and the job description, they don't match. I'm not even sure all the job description that the director has, they can get done in 8 hours. I think there's some things in there that person shouldn't have to handle, like transportation and kitchen manager. We now have a kitchen manager, so I don't think that should be part of that person's job. I don't know all the laws about it either. Thank you, Pam.
Okay. Well, I'm Pam Gahab. Many of you know I was just appointed to the board within the last month, but I've been around the senior center the entire time. And I can almost echo what Karen has said. It seems as though the part-time director was not there much, and usually if you needed to talk to her, she was in a meeting over at the city building. And same thing on the evening activities. She was not available for those because that was not during her actual work time. So I do understand fully that when there is a new project starting up, there's always growing pains, and we have grown very fast. And so we've had a lot of growing pains, and I can see there will be a lot more as the future goes on. If you look where we were 2 years ago, we were pretty much non-existent, and now we've got a lot going on. I would like to say that I am concerned because it seems like a lot of people will sign up as members, but then they don't really get too involved with the activities that are going on. I think we're doing everything possible to try and get the word out as to what is happening with the letter that goes out each month and all of the activities. But if we could find another outlet to try and get more information and get more seniors into the center, I think that would be good. I know there's a lot of people out there. There are a lot of people that don't partake that really would enrich their lives if they were involved more. So, all in all, I think it's a great thing that we've got going here. But I am concerned that I don't know if a full-time person can even handle everything that is asked of them. And when I looked at the job description also, I was real concerned because I thought, gee, I just can't imagine someone trying to do that, on a part-time basis. So that's kind of where I am.
I'm Terry Zupke. I guess when did I come in? Probably really like in 24. I retired in 23 from Goddard, and I was the secretary of Challenger forever. So I know being in the front office, what it is like to be a first person on the phone, on the computer, always trying to get things, and it's a lot, because you're also dealing with your public, you're dealing with people. So it can be very crazy every day sometimes. So to try to do that part-time, that would be, it's very difficult to try to give everybody the love and attention that you want to give your seniors. And I know when I retired, the first thing I did my first year was plan a wedding, so that was crazy. So it was really that next year that I got involved, and part of that was, Amanda being at our fall festivals, or saying, hey, we want you here, we want you to be involved. And I think being a director, you kind of have to have that personal touch with the public as well, to say, I'm here, this is a face you can come to. And that made me feel at least a little bit grounded on where to start. And from there, I remember days when I'm like, I could just lay in bed. I'm retired, I don't have to be anywhere. But then I remembered all my friends that I have made through the center, so it made me get up every day and be there. But I think it was that personal touch right at the beginning that gave me that motivation to love being there. That's me.
First I want to read, Russ is one of our advisory board members, Russ Mans, that was not able to attend, due to work. So he sent an email that I'd like to read, on his behalf. Huh? Amanda Trevor. But right now I'm Russ. Russ said, sorry I can't be here today. My wish is for the city to find the necessary funds for transportation. We won't have to reinvent the wheel. It should be very similar to what Hayesville is operating. My wish is for the city to find the necessary funds to hire a full-time senior center director. Also keep the advisory board intact because I don't believe the city staff will have enough time to manage and drive programs forward as our board and volunteers do. And then thank you. So that's word for word. And I have forwarded that to Ryan and Craig and Sarah. For myself, from being here from the beginning, I think we came a long way. It's taken an unimaginable amount of volunteer time and effort to be able to get here. Not only by me, but other volunteers as well. Anytime you are starting something at this level and growing at this size, there is so much that I think a lot of the community and a lot of anybody else that is not in the day-to-day boots on the ground really don't understand and imagine. I mean, there's meetings that we attend on a weekly, bi-weekly basis, monthly basis, quarterly basis. That keeps us up to date and involved on county funding, grant funding, all of that type of stuff. There's now transportation involved. A lot of we wouldn't be here today if it hadn't been for all the activation that we had done previously. Because I can't tell you how many no's I got starting this with Mills and everything else, and so it took a lot of us volunteers to keep pushing and speaking on behalf of our seniors. And I think that's why I feel like there's a lot of value in the advisory board, not only working as a great partnership and as a team alongside the city, but there's been times where we'll be like, okay, you take this meeting, I take that meeting, and together we can collectively cover all of the different bases. And I think that's a huge value. There's times there's relationships and partnerships that have been built in other areas that allows us to be able to find out information such as, we recently found out that, through pushing and activation that CPAAA is now going to present an additional 5% increase recommendation to county commissioners to increase the overall senior center funding. And now, because I was aware of it and we were aware of it, we can now send a letter of support in support of that and pushing for that. So it's not just what we're doing here locally, but it's how the things that we're doing can help support the bigger picture that will ultimately come back and help us too. Because the more funding we can get from the county, the less burden it is on the city and our taxpayers. And then as we add transportation to that, that's a whole other new department. There's going to be growing pains with that. I don't feel that it is fair or feasible for only one person to take all of that responsibility on. And I think that's where the advisory board comes in, is we all have that heart and servitude attitude to be able to pitch in and help support that, and continue to activate as a partner and as a team behind the scenes versus doing what we were doing before, which is coming to every city council meeting and speaking during public comments. I think this is a more productive way of being able to do that and to work through a lot of the challenges that we do see that just happens with growing things. And so I see a lot of value in maintaining the advisory board and the interactions that we currently do, and pushing for more of that boots on the ground support that was talked about. It does take a personalized approach to helping our seniors and to creating that environment that is welcoming, and that environment that is to show that there's a lot of crisis that we're facing with senior homelessness and their taxes going up, income not going up, to where we can really be that boots on the ground support to help our local seniors, make sure that we're helping to connect them to those resources that are available to them, that sometimes only we know about by attending those different types of meetings and getting that information from. And I am in full support of hiring a senior center director full-time now, just because it's setting us up on the right foot before. or now, going forward. And then in favor of really getting the ball rolling with transportation, we have got confirmation that the transportation vehicle has been ordered. And we could be getting it at any point, and I wanna make sure that we're ready to go once we get that as best as we possibly can. And I appreciate the efforts that Russ and the mayor has done in speaking to Hayesville and really discussing that, cause I can only imagine, like, if we weren't involved in that, like, that's so much more work that would be on city staff to do those things, and we're able to kinda divvy it up and tag team and cover a lot of that stuff. As well as write grants.
My name's Malloy Lee, and I was thinking about the city connection. Ryan came, I think, to one, I don't know if you've been more than one, but I remember one where you taught us about the advisory board and all that. And my concern is, how many of the city people have even been to any activities. I know one has, but just what they've done with Genesis and Sandbox and getting, people at a greatly reduced rate at Genesis if that goes through. But, I don't want, my vision is, I don't want Goddard to be the run-of-the-mill, senior center. I went to one in Colorado. I just stopped by because it was in the parking lot. But, there's a guy just sitting there, there's a lady that didn't even talk to me for a few minutes, and she was like right here. I mean, I want it to be something like it was before. There were so many activities. It seems to me that's gone downhill some if you look at calendars, and I was trying to find one. But it's just, I don't want to be the ordinary. I want to be extraordinary. And that, I think, is more my goal. I don't want to be, okay, we're going to play this, and this is what we do every day, and this is what we do every month, every year. It just, so I miss our trips to museums or lunches, and I miss even, like, birthday parties have gone downhill. They canceled it last month, I don't know, but we used to have some fun activities. It was yours, but and mine I can't go. But just the fun that we have, and I have met, living here since '97, I've met more people through the garden and the senior. They've lived here forever, and I had seen them in school, and it's such a blessing to have them be supportive of you. And I was just saying, when they walked in, nobody walked in, but it was given in February, there's going to be new bylaws, here's a director description, here's a transportation description. It's like, who wrote these? Was it Craig, was it Ryan, who did it? Because to my knowledge, nobody here, and I don't know about the director, we're involved in that, but it's like, we could have had some great input on this. And I feel like, I think that just really hurt me when it was like, this is new stuff, sign off on it or whatever. So, sorry, I got my notes in here. I agree with Ella. She told me we could only work during the morning hours, couldn't go at night. She could go at night, but she would pay for that. But I think it missed the potluck people and the people that went out to eat, just the time to visit and get to know her a little better. Karen is the face. I go to pickleball.
That's scary.
You're the one that sits out there. They didn't even know Ella until a few months ago. And Ella had been there, but I don't know how, how she talked with other people.
Play pickleball. On an average, what's the term?
25, yeah, around 25. And again too, about her city meetings, she'd be gone a lot at city meetings when we were like exercising or something. And I know she has such little time to do something, but, and I think we need our focus groups back, our members to come together and share what they like, what they don't like, and that had happened before. So I see, in my opinion, it's gone down a little bit in terms of activities, but I think that can be a lot
I'm Deb Dugan, and I agree with all that's been said. I'm not gonna re-say everything, but I enjoy going to the senior center. I started when Amanda put it on Facebook, 2 years ago, that she was thinking of starting one, and I just got on as treasurer a couple months ago. I worked with Ella on getting our worksheets together, and you know, we have a lot we can do with that to help, so that when the grants come up, hopefully we have everything in place as it comes up. But I think we do need somebody full-time and to interact with people that come in, or they be able to go in to see Ella or the director when they come in, they want something, they want to talk to them so that they know who that person is and that they have a contact to go to. Pretty much it.
I would like to share that when we first started, am I out of order?
No.
You're the face of this,
That I've had several seniors come up to me and say, "You saved my life." I was home depressed. Somebody that's in a divorce or lost their spouse, and they found out about this and they came in and everybody hugs everybody. Not always good for germs, but anyway, we all have the same germs. And I think that's important. That's what this is all about. And the transportation will help in that matter for some of the people that live up at Easy Place who have no transportation. They could come down to some of these other events, get them out of their homes. Because some of them, only person they see, and not all of them take Meals on Wheels. The ones that do, that's the only face they see every day is the Meals on Wheels delivery. And it's been special to me, and I've enjoyed every minute of it. And even if they raise my wages, I will.
Double nothing.
Double nothing.
We'll just double those
That's what I told them today.
Can I say something real quick?
It's up to the guy in blue over there.
Sure, no, I just, I don't want to stifle any of your
Well, I'm not
guys.
advisory board, so
That's
that's the
fine.
reason I asked.
You spend a little time over there, that's fine, we'll give you a couple of minutes.
We've been a part of the Goddard community since '85. And once my kids graduated high school, and last one graduated in 2003, so for over 20 years now, my husband and I have felt disconnected. In this room, Pam Dana, I remember kids went to school together. She's the one person I knew. We'd go out and we didn't know anybody. Who are these? We don't even know who they are, and we're in our own community. This center has allowed me to reconnect with those from the past and with those who are now part of my community. And everywhere we go, we see somebody now that we know that we can connect again with. So this has been very impactful in my house.
We've also had seniors who belong to a different senior center and have come to this one and joined because we're more fun.
Well, those senior centers probably aren't like dancing, so.
That's probably true.
Can I say something? There's a lady in our house group that I work with that told me, and it's not that she wants her husband to pass away, but she said when her husband,
We're not recording this, right?
It wasn't Malloy. Look at George slide over there like.
But she said when my husband passes and they're older and he hadn't been in the best of health, she said, I plan to move to Goddard, and she said it's mainly because of the senior center there. So I told her not to knock him off or anything.
But you wouldn't judge either, right?
I'm not telling.
How many seniors do you guys have currently?
Membership is over 700.
So,
But active, I would say 150.
So you have that gap that you need.
and the active starts over every January.
Yeah.
So it's not that's only how many we've had active this whole 2-some years. It's just every January it starts over to count the active members for that
When they
year.
come to an event, I mark it down.
Yeah.
So and so came to an event, so.
There's a whole reporting process that
Yeah,
goes.
there
it's
is.
part of the grant funding.
Yeah.
Mayor, if I could,
You may.
I just want to take a moment to tell each of you that the city staff, we fully acknowledge each of these concerns that you guys have shared as legitimate. And some of these things are things that we have been aware of that are going on and likely haven't given them the effort necessary to address them. Some new things we have learned even just this afternoon with what you've shared, and we really value and appreciate you guys giving us that feedback. And I want to personally apologize and take a level of accountability for the disconnect and the frustration that's been caused by the ambiguity with our structure and the bylaws and just the way that we should be interacting with one another, not being clear. Clear is kind is the saying that I think rings true, and in this situation maybe we haven't been kind to one another by not being on the same page because of the system we have set up. It doesn't provide for a productive way to move forward, especially when we're growing as fast as we are. So I am sorry that we've had these challenges, and I'm sorry for my personal role in it. We have taken some steps just in the last few weeks to try to address immediately a few of these concerns. So Ryan is obviously over the senior center. That's an area he's responsible for. He and I work very closely together. We're going to be realigning our schedule to make sure we're reallocating the appropriate senior staff level time towards the senior center. It doesn't work well when we're not in the meetings where the consensus is being made and the vision is being set. So we've reallocated our schedules to make sure that Ryan's going to be at each of the senior center advisory board meetings. If he's not able to be there, I will be there. So that'll you'll notice that just next week, I think, is the next meeting. So that's something that we're going to be making sure we're doing. And then especially during the time where we don't have our full-time director hired, he's going to be going over there daily. I hope you've already noticed that. Just to check in for 10 to 15 minutes or so. We want to make sure that everyone knows who your city staff are. I mean, that's important to us. We want to make sure that we're a friendly face that people recognize and that people know and believe that we're plugged in and have an idea what's going on. And I take responsibility that that hasn't happened to the degree that it should have over the last few months. So I want to bring Ryan Peck up to give him an opportunity to kind of share some perspectives that he has and then ask some open-ended questions. Council, advisory board, please feel free to ask questions, give comments. We want your candid feedback, and we're going to take everything that we learned today and probably will need to do some offline follow-up to help chart a path forward to fix our system and make it better prepared to handle our growth and all the amazing things that you guys are doing in service of our seniors and the broader community. So I'm going to have Ryan come up, and the mayor will
I'll make a
interject first.
comment. Go ahead, Ryan. I just want to be sure to say to Ryan, you have no fault or any responsibility in all of this. The 95% of what's happened is based on this structure. And as we moved along, sometimes this is the bump in the road to figure it out. But it's not fair to Ryan to be gone three evenings a month. And so what Craig has come up with is we're going to excuse him from a council meeting. Your meetings are shorter, so he's coming out pretty good. But they have snacks, I think, so you'll get snacks. Well, you're the de facto mayor, so yeah, we're the snacks.
Lawyers bringing snacks to her meetings, what are
You
you?
don't want more.
She would have to make.
Yeah, be the lawyer. No, but I just think that everybody has the same thought in mind and same intention, and I just wanted to be sure that that Ryan knows that he wasn't responsible for the structure.
No.
And the structure, I think, is what creates frustration, and, but I appreciate the efforts that Ryan's made on things and will continue to do, so I wanted to be sure to say that.
I think it's a growing curve and definitely a year of growth, which is a good problem to have. I know you had asked like who'd been in the senior center, and I've not been lately, but one of my favorite things to do is the line dancing or Saturday night bingo, and you guys kick my butt. I feel very weak when I leave, but I see it and I hear it, and I just want to say, like, just in all of the conversations that we're having as well, I think it's seen, and all that you guys do, and the fact that the senior center, no matter who it's run by, would not be possible without you guys, and all of the work. I mean, I don't think I'm ever there and you're not there, so poking at you a little bit. I mean, I know it's a lot, and
It's okay. God wanted me there for some reason, so that's where I wanna be.
well, we're very appreciative of what you guys do, and I hate that there's been discontent or to feel like we're not all on the same page because we want to be a team, and I very much believe that, and I think that it's only up from here, but we're very appreciative of everything you guys do.
All right, Ryan. Thank
Well,
you.
Mayor, I'd echo what you just shared. There isn't anybody who is necessarily at fault for anything that's happened. I mean, you guys were building this from scratch. You were building it on the fly, and so as a result, it's necessarily going to be a work in progress. There are going to be speed bumps. There are going to be things that there's trial and error that goes into some of this stuff, and you know, maybe you think, oh, okay, it'll work this way, and you get into it and you quickly realize, oh, that was a bad idea. So let's take 2 steps back and try a different approach. I mean, that's just running a business. You know, those of us who are business owners, that's what we do every day. That's what I do in the practice of law. It's just, you know, largely problem solving. And some people, I can deal with them one way. I can't deal with other people in the same way. It just doesn't get the same result. But you don't necessarily learn that until you've taken a swing and you miss a couple times. And so it's all a learning process. And this is going to continue to be a growing and evolving organization. And we're going to have to try some things a little bit differently. That's okay. Okay? So, now that you've heard the city is going to try and make a go of having a full-time director, what does that look like? What do you all think the full-time, let's have this conversation today based on the assumption we're going to have a full-time director going forward. Okay. What does that person's day-to-day job look like? What are the responsibilities that you all think that person should be in charge of?
Ryan, did you want to advance the slide?
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
To prepare the newsletter,
Okay.
to keep track of the membership and whether they come to an event or not. I do it on paper, and then I give it to the director so they can input that in, because I'm not going near that computer over there. And maybe not so strict on when their hours are during the day. If one day there's a senior event, like when we go out to eat, some of those people don't come into the senior center, but they like to go out to eat. Maybe the senior director could come to that and maybe not come in as early that day.
Right.
So that they have 8 hours a day, but it's not all at the same time.
Do you think it's the kind of job that is conducive to having a fixed schedule, or should it be, you know, so one of the issues that we'll have to work through is whether the person can be paid on truly a salaried basis or on an hourly basis. Obviously, on an hourly basis, the more hours you work, the more expensive it gets.
Right.
If you get over 40, you got overtime that comes into play. If it's something that we can swing and justify paying on a salaried basis, I'm old school. Salaried basis means you do whatever work is necessary for the same pay. If you can get the work done in 30 hours, great, you get full pay. If it requires 80 hours that week, you get the same pay. I mean, what you guys, I mean, one of the common themes that I heard from, I think most all of you, was concern about the duties of the director and inability to get everything done on a part-time schedule. So what does that look on a full-time schedule? Do you still have concerns that, you know, not everything can get done at 40 hours a week? Is it 50 hours a week? I mean, what does this look like?
Will the job description stay the same? I mean, you can
Well, that,
put a job description
Right.
and make it be 100 hours a week, which in reality is not doable.
right,
But I think a lot depends on the job description that goes along with it.
I think that's what he's asking, is like,
Yeah.
we wanna recraft a job description,
Right.
because
Right.
we agree that if we're gonna put this post out, we wanna make sure that the job description fits the actual needs.
yeah. Let's just assume we're shredding everything that we've done thus far. Okay?
I don't think.
We got a full-time director.
I don't think transportation should be that person's job. I think
Okay.
it should be a separate part-time position, because we don't know the workings of that yet.
Okay.
Ryan, I've heard this a few times, so I wanna clarify. We have budgeted for a part-time driver that's separate. If the job description states that inaccurately, we will fix it. What it should say is that the part-time director would report to, the part-time driver would report to the senior center director.
Yeah.
So they're not gonna be the senior center director is not gonna be
Not gonna
responsible for the driving.
Yes, I understand that.
But shouldn't the senior center director have general oversight in terms of coordinating transportation, making sure that, you know, the driver is available, what that schedule looks like, eligibility for using transportation services, budgetary issues associated with that? I mean, do you think the senior director should have involvement in those things and general oversight over that?
And I think there needs to be, if you just have a driver and the director, I mean, we have no idea what the number of calls are gonna be, and who, like the nursing home, or over here by the pool had asked, oh, maybe we can use it sometime. I mean,
Silver lining.
yeah, silver lining, you know, other people that would use it, I mean, we don't know right now what it's
Right.
gonna look like.
Well,
what it's
and
gonna
that's-
eventually look like, and I don't know with all the stuff the director does, if they have a whole lot of time to worry about the transportation.
The driver should be handling all of that. The senior center director would just be their manager, or their
Yeah.
supervisor, so to
Ensuring
speak.
they're doing these
General
things, that they're
coordination
getting
and
fulfilled.
oversight.
Okay.
Yeah, they're not
The,
gonna,
the transportation, driver would report to the director. Just, this is the plan, this is what's on the agenda. And the director would be in constant awareness of where that vehicle is at all times, because the director would need to report back to the
Right,
city.
right.
Just for liability issues, insurance, those kinds of things. So,
Well, and I think you would want them involved in some capacity, only because I've been in a situation, in a job, where if you're going to have community support, you're gonna have all areas supported, and you support each other, you're gonna have to talk, you're gonna have to communicate, and communication is number one. So I think the director, in some capacity, whether it be informing them what the activities are, or, you know, where it's important to be, will be mandatory. But, on the other hand, there has to be some balance on what we're expecting of a director to handle as well, because it will be a lot, even if we go full-time. There's still so many phone calls, so many people that just need, and to be able to do all of this is hard. And I remember going home some days going, gosh, I don't think I called this person back or got a hold of that person, and everybody was equally needy as far as what they thought was important, and it all was.
Right.
So I don't know. I think you have to have everybody involved somehow to keep the communication and the balance.
Yeah. I think Hayesville pays somebody to answer the phone 20 hours a week. And if the driver's out driving, he's not there to answer the phone.
Right.
True.
Yeah.
So if the driver's not there and the phone rings, somebody needs to answer that. And I think that from what, back in January, at the meeting that I went to, Russ asked me to go with him to Hayesville. It took us a while to go, but that was one of the things the director at Hayesville said, was that we really need to have somebody, maybe 30 hours a week, answering the phone instead of 20. So you go from part-time to somewhat full-time, or you find two people that answer 15 hours a week or whatever. But and the other thing that was interesting from that visit is learn that they provide transportation to high school students and grade school students in the afternoons for different things too. So if you look at their numbers, and I guess I only point that out is there's going to be other places that, like you were talking about, that would probably use that. The whole, it's kind of like you add one piece to the puzzle, then this other piece. So if someone answering the phone, that might be another piece of the puzzle.
The answering of the phone, I mean, is that something that volunteers could perform?
Can I ask a question? Sorry, just listening to you guys talk posed a question that I hadn't thought about before, but it's similar to what you're saying. I think as we craft this and just understanding it, like you guys have put so much work in that, let's say even in the next 12 months you get all 700 seniors like actively participating, or your calendar picks back up for these things. I think that even with a full-time person, we're going to be in this position again, right? But we have to be careful with the budget still and what that looks like. So as we're crafting this, is there a way to talk about, absolutely, as a city employee, like, the director needs to handle XYZ, these are the non-negotiables, the must-attend events that are, like, is bingo one that you're like, hey, this is a bigger one, they have to be at this one, whereas, like, line dancing probably isn't gonna happen all the time, right? Just things like that. But is there, and maybe you guys are already doing this, I don't know the structure, but just like answering the phones, can you have a sign up that's like, we could really use a volunteer to answer calls 2 hours a week, kind of like the Meals on Wheels, or do XYZ that gets these seniors out of the house and in there participating in a way, but that's also maybe giving back a little bit, so that we can keep these things going without the same 5 people kind of managing the same things. Because I think even with full-time, I'm hearing you say like there's a lot to be done and we're still gonna have challenges, so I think just making sure that we cover the non-negotiables and like where can we help manage the volunteers to do some of these other things.
But there's only one line over there, so our director couldn't, the line wouldn't be open for her to answer or talk to people if she were planning events or calling somebody.
We can set the phone up, which I would like to do this, especially hearing what I am now, to where if no one picks it up, it automatically forwards the call to the city-issued cell phone that will always be on the director's person during business hours. Or if they're working a flex schedule, they're probably always going to have it, such as the way I do it. It sits on my nightstand. So that's an issue we could resolve. Say if there's a separate line or something, if you hit the part-time senior center van driver extension, you know, once you call in and he doesn't pick up because he's out doing a ride, it'll forward the call to his city-issued cell phone. So if as long as he's not, you know, too busy or on the, you know, doing something that he can't answer, maybe we don't want him answering on the highway, but he can call someone back when he stops. You know, so there's some logistical things we can do to take care of this phone
But I do
issue.
think Ryan's comment about volunteers doing these things are,
Yeah.
well, it's, if we could just clone Karen.
Can we sort of treat this like the CIP in terms of putting together a plan going forward. We have this 10-year CIP that have dreams and visions and goals for our city. Can we do that same kind of thing with this? Like, we have non-negotiables that we need right now. We can't, I mean, just like we're building a city, we can't have everything right now. So, is there a way that we can come up with, you know, just incrementally plan, these, what you need, you know, your needs versus your wants over the next 12 months, 18 months, 2 years, and we just continually come back and revisit where we are.
But I think this transportation session is gonna be on us in
Right now.
90 days, so
Yeah.
this isn't the first phase of that, that's,
Yeah.
I mean, I agree with exactly what you're saying. As we continue to grow, this continues to evolve, the volunteer effort needs to move and march with the size of the things we're doing, and I think collaboratively, I know Craig had talked about maybe trying to set up a CIP for the senior center, which I think would be helpful. But I think this is kind of like the first, gives us the first run, is here we've got up a step, full-time director, and then right behind it, we've got another step of this transportation thing, and
But I think we need to be fair on like where that is. I mean, I think in my head, and I'm not speaking for anybody else here, it's like, what the non-negotiables in my head when we talk about this is like, what do you need that's gonna get you through the rest of this year in 2027? Because we are crafting 2027's budget to include this full-time director as well. But to no fault of you guys, like you guys are putting in so many hours, I would anticipate with all the work you guys put in, that we're gonna be in the same position in 12 months with no wiggle room at that point. And so it's like, what can we do to make sure that you are getting what you have to have that's gonna get you through 2027? And then we start having these conversations again when we start looking at 2028 budget, and we're like, what can we add then? And so I think that's where I say like the volunteers, where can we manage some of that with volunteers still versus like, I don't wanna set another director up for failure or the city up for failure or you guys up for failure. So like, what do you have to have right now that's gonna get you through the next 18 months that, maybe isn't perfect because you guys are growing so rapidly, but is going to be feasible until we look at this budget again for 2028.
I would say for sure, number one would be, you know, the full-time director, which I'm glad to hear that that's what we're working on. One is making them a flex schedule, kind of you mentioned that here's all the work that you get, you know, you get paid this amount of money to get all the work done for the senior center based upon however many hours that requires. And talking to other directors, they don't work just 40 hours. You know, sometimes they're out shopping at night for the supplies that they need for a party coming up. It's a job that's also a labor of love, you know, kind of a thing. And the second thing is as I said before, just really pushing to actually have that workshop around transportation. We have not actually sat down and said this is the way we want our transportation program to start. We have visions and dreams of what it will be eventually, but we need to be realistic of what do we want it to start as. If we get this vehicle in July, what happens at that point? I would love to have that plan discussed now, because I feel like that affects our director's position. You know, you're not gonna know, is it gonna be a separate phone line? Is it going to be the senior center phone line? You know, what hours are we even gonna offer it? You know, are we only starting with just senior center transportation to events, or are we gonna open it to taking them to their physical therapy? You know, we haven't had those conversations yet, and I think that needs to happen now, so that way it can help fill in some of these gaps and questions that we have about the director role, and what roles responsibility would be for that person, what the role of responsibility would be for the director of transportation. Yes, eventually it will grow into its own probably department and stuff like that, but we're not there yet. So what does it look like now, like you said, for the rest of this year and for next year? You know, looking at that, you know, that 1 to 2 year mark. That I think would be very, very helpful and very, very insightful for us to really figure out what we want it to look like. And I think the office being locked outside of director hours is a little bit of a challenge, because we could be answering phone calls, you know, outside of those hours. we could be utilizing that office, you know, to be able to help, other seniors and stuff, so, I think just more of that flexibility, would help, to where us volunteers can support and do more as well. Cause there's
So-
times that we need access to printing things, or, you know, need access to the phone, or just different things that, you know, inputting data that we don't have access to. in
Like
the
we
kitchen.
couldn't take a volunteer help because right now you don't have access to give that.
Yeah.
Well, and sometimes you can come into confidentiality things that even a director may only be privy to.
But is it possible maybe to lock cabinets and maybe lock, like if you have to use the computer for things, maybe the director has their own login that's locked with their own password that has access to things that like a volunteer login on the computer maybe wouldn't have? Do you know what I mean? I guess I think I'm more directing this elsewhere, but just thinking out loud that if you don't have access to the printer or printing things or some of the phone calls, and we're asking if you can use volunteers for this, but we're not offering you the space, just how we maybe manage
So
that.
the desk drawer locking and unlocking device seems to not be working. Ryan shares, so we'll work on that one when he gets back next week.
Does anything walk over there?
The door to my office.
The door.
Sheila Grace is sitting in the back. You wanted to kind of question, or you want to make a comment?
I just wanted to make a comment about the transportation. I was involved with Dodge City's community busing situation plus other things. A volunteer being available to answer the phone probably won't be, because what Amanda was saying, you don't know if you're gonna have a fixed route or if you're gonna have just a call-in route. And it takes someone to have that ability to say, okay, this will go on the fixed route, this will go on the para route, para meaning going around and picking them up. And so that needs to be figured out at the jump. And that's what I was hearing was that, you know, this transportation has grown legs before the wheels showed up. and it really needs a lot of consideration, in my opinion, from my experience.
So if we have volunteers answering the phone, and I think this is for the workshop, so I'll leave it at this, but even if we have, and I know it's not perfect because sometimes seniors call in, they're trying to make appointments and they kind of need to know, so this would be a work in progress, but if we even have a volunteer who was answering the phone that was like, thank you so much for getting this out, like I have your information, you are in the line, there are, even if they could say like, there are 3 people who called today ahead of you, and whoever the transportation driver is, the last 30 minutes of their shift is making sure that anybody who called in that day to get on the schedule gets a call back that day. And so maybe it's just kind of blocking it out, so they're scheduling it because they know what their schedule looks like, but.
I still think a volunteer may be, you know, if I come in for 2 hours this day and someone else comes in for 2 hours another day, it's gonna get stuff, there's gonna be stuff, I know what seniors are like.
Karen's like, oh,
And so I think there needs to be a person who takes those calls.
I get what you're saying, yeah.
So I don't wanna get bogged down in the minutia and the logistics. What I'm hearing from all of you is you need a full-time director whose job is to coordinate and oversee and help make some of these decisions and figure out how to, you know, make staffing available, whether it's the kitchen coordinator, whether it's volunteers, figuring out when are we going to have volunteers available, who's going to answer the phones, is the director going to answer the phones, or are we going to have volunteers take an hour, 2-hour turns? I mean, these are things that, in my opinion, a director should be charged with overseeing and figuring out. I think they're the kinds of things that it's going to require some trial and error. And it's going to require seeking input from all of you in terms of what's important. What are the services that you want to see offered by the senior center? You know, and what are your wish list of things? And that director needs to be planning and strategizing for, hey, how can we grow this thing? How can we provide additional services? If we need additional paid staffing, where are we going to get the money for that? That person should be researching fundraising opportunities, writing grants, you know, working with senior staff to try and identify additional sources of funding. I do think that person should be overseeing generally the transportation. That doesn't mean that the director is driving the bus, but the director should have involvement in identifying, okay, what is our plan for the bus? What are the hours of availability? Are we going to use it to go to events, activities, doctor's appointments? Are we going to require people to schedule in advance? Are we going to make multiple stops on these trips? I mean, I think those are the types of logistics things that a director probably is going to need to help identify and think through and figure out. So what I'm hearing from you all, and then some of my own thoughts, big picture things that a director should be involved in: fundraising, grant writing, outreach, attending events. Maybe they're not at every event, but they need to be a regular attendee. They can't be a stranger. Somebody who can coordinate and oversee transportation. Somebody who can manage staffing at the senior center. That includes both paid staff and volunteer staff. Communication, the newsletter. Seeking input of the seniors and the members to make sure that he or she has their pulse on what the membership wants. I mean, the senior center is going to exist to provide you with the services that you want. I mean, if I'm the director, we're not doing it for what I want. My job is to make sure I have an understanding, or I think I have an understanding as to what my members want. Okay? So part of that is going to be outreach and staying in contact and communication with the larger group. Any other big picture things that you all think is important for a director to be involved in or to oversee?
Are you good? I just look back on everything Ella was expected to be at, meeting, whatever. And now we're going to throw transportation in this picture as well. Now, obviously, the only way I think all of this can happen is with a full-time director. And even then, we're pushing a lot of hours of transportation time, phone calls. Seniors don't say, hey, I need to make an appointment, go here, and you get off the phone. You're probably on the phone a while. Because they want to talk, or something's happening, which takes, you want that heart. You want the heart to be in this as well, not just all political and meetings, you know, even though all of this somewhere along the line is helping them. But I think you can't, we're not going to be successful without whoever we hire having the heart in it.
For sure.
How many hours do you feel like they're getting at the city for meetings in a week? Just, I really don't
What do you
know the
guys
answer to
think?
that.
I don't know.
How many hours are they spending at the city for?
Ella spent?
You know, I think that my perspective is going to be different than the perspectives that I've heard, and that's okay. We can constructively disagree. I know that she was over here once a week or so for an hour to update Ryan on the things that she was doing, and I know she was over here for our once a month employee recognition birthday luncheons, and then I would see her come over to use our break room every once in a while, which was a little peculiar because there's a kitchen over there, but maybe it was in use for meals at that time. But I mentioned some of the steps we're taking to be more present over there, and because of this feedback we've heard from members of the advisory board and the senior citizens, instead of having the director come here when we need to meet with them, we're going to go to the senior center. There's an office over there. It's easy enough for us to, we can just as well walk over there as they could walk over here. So since that concern exists, we want to make sure we're showing effort to fill that gap. But I know that others feel differently, and I totally am okay with that too. But we're going to take our part in fixing those issues.
Based on the things that you had shared, Ryan, about how you see the vision of this going, I kind of see it a little bit differently, and I think that was the whole reason where I thought that the advisory board was created, was because a lot of the things that you're talking about where it would be just the director that's coordinating all this and making all these decisions, I saw it more as, you know, that's where you can leverage the advisory board to make some of these high-level decisions, because you're getting the feedback from not just the director, but the directors involved in it, but also the advisory board in, you know, navigating all these different things that you mentioned. And then we rely on the director to go and execute on these things. So that way, you know, that one person is not responsible for everything. That's what we're trying to avoid. But to where the advisory board is able to help in those decisions, to where the director can go and execute on that thing and have more time back to be the face of the senior center and to participate more. Because I think a lot of that administrative duties is what's bogging the director down and keeping them away from greeting people when they come in or being the face of the senior center. And so that's where I feel like the advisory board can help, where it's a collective decision and then the director is able to go and execute on the wishes and the direction and the vision we want the senior center to go, if that makes sense.
Do you feel like if sorry,
No,
I'll shut up at some point. Do you feel like if the city is showing up to your board meetings and you feel like you're getting more meshed together, and I don't think this is anything you guys are doing at the beginning of the structure, but just like having a director or anybody else unchecked in situations, like do you feel like it's fair if that were to be put on you guys, that the city being involved at these board meetings and being able to work with you versus just coming to the city and saying, this is what we're doing, this is what the city employee needs to do? Because I think maybe that's part of in my head where the line is if we're hiring a city employee, we have to defer to the city to an extent. And so, not that we can't work together, but do you feel like that's more doable if the city is showing up to these board meetings and the city is making the decision with you?
Yeah,
and it's not my
absolutely. Because I think it saves a step. I mean, I don't think you would have to have so much of that weekly meeting that we have with Ryan and the director and myself. If everybody was in that meeting, because those decisions could be made in that meeting and executed after that meeting. And so I think it puts everybody on the same page and adds more clarity to where if something is not clarified, it can be clarified at that meeting versus it taking another week or 2 weeks to clarify. Okay. And leaving that gray area, if that makes sense. Yeah, absolutely.
And the director didn't stay the whole time, and I don't know what the expectation was, but, you know.
That would be helpful too.
Yeah, that would be helpful.
The ones that are in attendance would stay for the entire meeting.
Yeah.
That's why the flex schedule was important, because, you know, her hours were set, 8:30 to 12:30. Well, when she had to come to one of our meetings, she wasn't getting paid for that.
Well,
she was, but it was.
Okay.
It wasn't the whole time.
I'm going to be the devil's advocate here. What I hear is that the advisory board really wants to maintain a lot of the control and decision making and wants the director to primarily be a greeter and phone answerer. That's what I'm hearing. And here's the concern that I have is, and that's above my pay grade to make that's a policy decision for you all. But the issue that it raises is if the director doesn't really have any decision-making authority, doesn't have any discretion, oversight, then we have to pay that individual on an hourly basis, which squeezes the budget even more. And to the extent the hours go over 40, now you're paying overtime. Even if you're flexing hours, you're still gonna have a finite number of hours that you can afford within the budget. If we can justify making this a salaried position, and the way we do that is you gotta give real power and authority to the director to oversee, to strategize, to make decisions, to oversee staff, volunteers, you know, making recommendations to City Hall, things like that. Then I think you could probably justify making this a salaried position, which creates some budgetary flexibility so that, hey, if it ends up being more of a 45 to 50 hour a week gig, it's not hurting the budget in the same way. So I don't mean to push back. I just, there are certain business considerations that we have to think about and legal considerations that we have to think about in terms of how we operate and manage this. And I think part of the tension is, I think there's a fundamental disagreement over who should be in charge of making those day-to-day decisions. Is it City Hall or is it the advisory board? And I think I'm hearing two different perspectives on that. And I'm not saying one is right or one is wrong, but I sense there are different perspectives on that threshold issue.
I'm also hearing Craig, when he was talking to, saying we want to close that gap.
Yeah.
We want to partner with you guys, and we want to be at meetings. We want to.
Which is really what is missing. You guys are all kind of saying the same thing, just from different standpoints.
I think the perspective though is the liability that comes with putting together a senior center. If everything is put on the advisory board, you're liable. And that is huge. And if we have a full-time director who's employed by the city carries the liability that comes along with that. And it's a protection for you as well. So as much as you want to be involved in every single aspect of it, we have to look at what the realistic piece is going to be if you want a full-time director that is a paid employee to cater to your actual needs. And so the question is my question then is what would the role of the advisory board be in support of a director that would be a full-time employee of the city? So that's maybe along the lines that maybe we can think about, because you are an invaluable, asset. You've basically started the whole program, and now it's to the point where you're gonna have to hand some of it off, and a lot of the things that you still wanna hold on to, you have to put some trust into what the city is trying to provide. And you're asking, you're coming and asking us for this full-time position, and the director has to have the authority to do the things that need to be done to accommodate your community.
Knowing how important it is that you get the right director who is willing to work with you.
Yeah.
I think you very much value and understand that you have to, whether I would agree with that sentiment, that liability speaking, you can't have a city employee that reports to you and not the city.
Yeah, right.
But I would say that I see the hesitation, given the way things have gone, in the fact that I don't think it's about them reporting to the city, just making sure that you're heard and they're reporting to the city, but they're working with you. And I think that's the piece that's missing, is just that gap being closed and knowing that.
And I'll clarify, it has nothing to do with control, like us having control. It only has to do with how else would the senior voices be heard, and the feedback and the best practices that got us to where we are today are continued if there is not that interaction with an advisory board. So it has nothing to do with us controlling and not the city. It's just, if we don't have an advisory board that has input and a say, similar to like the city council, where the mayor is a voting person, where you're all part of one team, right? So however we can make that happen to where the voices are still heard, the input by our seniors are still taken in consideration by the director, then I have no problem with the director leading the things. It's just, how do we ensure this continues and ensure, because there are so many different things going on, that things are not missed or, very important deadlines are not late. Because that's where our help has been able to support that and to say, because we're in a situation, we're hiring another new director. The chances of us getting a director that's gonna step in and know exactly what to do and know the history and know all the meetings and all the grant components and everything, is not possible. You're gonna have to have us that have been there from the beginning to help onboard that person. So if we don't have, but if that person is like, well, I don't report to you, don't listen to you, I only listen to the city, then that's where that confusion and that challenge comes into play. So like however we wanna figure that out, that's the only reason I think there's value with us, is just making sure things are not skipped or not dropped, and then making sure that we maintain what has made it successful, and that's our seniors have a voice. Our seniors who have helped created this successful senior center.
But what happens if there's disagreement between what the advisory board wants for the senior center versus what the city council or city hall wants for the senior center?
City hall or the director?
Well, I mean, the director would be an employee of city hall.
That's a good question.
So, I mean,
I don't know what that looks like.
how do you all envision that playing out or sorting itself out?
Who's the deciding
Communication, agreement.
Okay, but let's assume that there is communication and both sides are operating in good faith, guys. You know, I mean, there can be reasonable disagreements and just agree to disagree. That doesn't mean that one side's right or one side's wrong, but what happens in that scenario?
See, part of the problem has been, is that we have a senior director that would not listen at all to these people.
Right.
And when, probably one of the most, rudely treated things that I've experienced in my 3 years at the council was the way she treated me in the January meeting. And I think that if these people have input and they understand that the senior director has the final say, as long as they've had the input, I think they're fine. But the biggest issue has been, there was no consideration from Ella to anything that these people said. You're making a good point. And I think this group, if they had the opportunity to provide their input, they would be willing to be agreeable to disagree. We do that if I'm on the bench. I mean, but I think the understanding is here that they're willing to let the city lead in that and have that person lead that. But that person can't run that center by themselves.
Agreed.
And what's happened in this last 8 months is the center's declined. There's not enough activities. The things that have happened in the past. I mean, she walked in there and canceled that February birthday party at 10 o'clock before, when Lloyd's getting there to sign some people up. So, I mean, I'm just.
And I don't wanna focus on the past and focus on our performance.
But it is important to understand.
I know.
It's important to understand that part of the frustration was the way these people have been treated.
Right.
And I don't think that there's any disagreement from them when you've got a full-time director that's willing to listen to them. I think they respect that person's decision. I don't think that's an issue.
It shouldn't be an issue. I appreciate that input. I do. I think we just need to make sure as a council and as the city staff that we all work together to make sure they're heard. And we need to give them a forum at which they can route those issues, and we don't just ignore them and say it'll get better, right? Like, we have to find a way to solve the problem right away, and if we have to intervene, then we have to intervene. And I think giving you guys a way to be able to address any issues that you're having with the city immediately and get them heard. And that way, if we need to intervene, whether that be Brian that intervenes or the city council that intervenes, like, we just have to make sure that the person that we hire is gonna really listen to our advisory board.
And then.
That's absolutely
But-
imperative. I mean, that's just common sense for anybody in that
But
position.
the things, the other piece we talked about is that we need to have some specific responsibilities in terms of what the expectations are of the senior center board and how they communicate and what their role is. And I don't think, from what I've heard today, that we're that far off.
But just backing up here for a second, because I think just going back to your question, it's a fair question. I agree with you. I think some of the hesitation that I'm looking around and seeing is the fact that you feel a little burned and what's already happened, and I don't disagree with that, but I think the reality, just being frank, is this: if we're gonna have a city employee, the city has to direct that employee. However, it has to be fair and conducive to the seniors that are signed up. It has to be fair to the advisory board putting in the work. So what does that look like for you guys? If you could choose, what does that look like? Does that look like, who gets the final say? Let's just say you guys have had conversation for hours and you are at an impasse and you can't figure it out. For you, I'm not saying that's what would happen. Is it the city then just gets to make the decision? Does that need to go in front of council? Does that, because I don't think it can be, as a city employee, that the advisory board can just say, nope, you have to do this, because that kind of comes into the liability. But what does that look like? What would make you feel comfortable? Does that then need to be the step that goes to council? Knowing that if that's the next step, you have to wait till the next council meeting, or what does that look like?
And I'm gonna share for a second, but I'd love to hear the perspective of the board members. But for me, I think we have a fantastic city council, and I have all the confidence that if it was something that we could not come to agreement on, that we could bring it to council, and I would trust that council would make the best decision.
But you're not always gonna have the same city council.
Yeah.
Council's, I mean, I live in a world of what ifs. In the legal world, and I've been here for a while. I've seen different administrations. I've seen different, groups up here. And things are working really well right now, okay? But they haven't always. And to be quite candid, they won't always.
And they go worse the fastest when council
Yes.
gets involved in operations.
Right.
When they are the vision setters, they're guiding the community from a holistic 10,000 foot level view. I would like to think that if there is an operational disagreement, that if we're all around the table, which the issue is very clear, we haven't been with you guys making these decisions. If we're there, we're going to come to a consensus. I'm willing to lose my way for the greater good. If I think the tablecloth should be black instead of white, I'm willing to go with the white tablecloth so we can move forward. If it's an operational situation, we gotta just be willing to compromise and build consensus.
But I just want the contingency there. I'm so sorry. I just want the contingency there that at some point it is very possible that you're going to come to an impasse. There's a lot of strong women in this room, and that's at some point you can. And I just want. It doesn't have to be answered today, but I really want that out there. What happens if you come to the table and you guys really can't figure this out? I want you to know, but I also want you guys to know that you have a backup. The council should not be used for monthly operations. Well, on Monday we couldn't decide, and so next month you gotta take this, and we're seeing this every month. But I think there has to be a backup should you really hit an issue that is not figure outable. Yes, yeah.
If they're being actually employed by the city, I think at some point then that would have to be turned over to the city to make that decision.
Yeah.
That would be the preferred. It's right that it goes through Ryan. You can't solve it with Ryan, and you would do it right.
It's gotta go
You can't solve it
through the
with
process.
Because we want you to know we're here should you go through the chain of command. If you are coming to us, I would hope that it's because you feel so strongly about something. Like, I don't want us to be the forefront. I think that Craig does an amazing job, and I don't ever want to step in his toes or his territories. That's what he's hired for. That's what he's here for. But I just want to see the what if of should you really hit an impasse that you've talked to Ryan about, you've talked to Craig about, you've talked to the director about, that you know we are here.
We could do this again.
Yes, yeah.
If we need to, right? Like, I think Craig, I have faith in Craig that he would fix it.
For
He
time's
wouldn't
sake,
be there,
could we just clarify the full-time position,
operations. Like, just, so we've come to the conclusion that the senior center needs a full-time position. So, based off of the list of operations that Ryan gave, that makes a lot of sense to me, to have a director in charge of those kinds of things. And it would warrant, in my view, as a council member, it would warrant a full-time paid position for that. Could then the advisory board, support that director in these other ways that we have been talking about, in, you know, making sure that, you know, you're collectively saying to the director, we want, you know, the seniors came to us with this, you know, with this thing, or with that, with this need, or with that one. Could the advisory board work in support to the director with all the little details, if you will, and then the director would carry out the daily tasks that have been put here?
Krista, I think we could do that. I mean, in my view, only because what I'm hearing, and I think, I love the way Craig put it, is I think if we could bridge the gap, we have a city person there at every meeting, we have a director there every meeting, not because she's not getting paid or because she's taking time. It's just something that will be part of that position. I think the city, the director is gonna see that the board doesn't have anything but everybody's best interest at heart. And I think once we're all on that same page, we all see it, I think we're gonna get better.
We just don't want our hard work and all the effort we put in to go the wrong way. We want to see this continue to thrive and be successful.
So you're okay supporting the director and letting the city assume some control of these things? I think what I am hearing is you just want to make sure that the director that is in that position is working with you and not just telling you, I'm a city employee or not. Like, it's not that the city is assuming the control, it's just making sure that your voices are still being heard, the seniors are still being heard. Like, is that, am I under?
And that the city feels the same way. Not
And
just the director.
Yeah.
Everybody's together.
And because we are gonna be onboarding a new director, I would personally like to have some clarity around, you know, is it appropriate and okay for me to help onboard that director and making sure that director knows all the things that, you know, we have went to and done without the conflict of that director saying, well, I don't take, you know, direction from you, I take it only from the city.
Your exact role is to advise, so yes, we absolutely want you to do that. And a director worth their salt, or any city staff worth their salt, is going to try everything they can to accommodate your wishes. And one of your responsibilities is to make sure you're not pulling them in too many different directions. Because even though we're going from 20 to 40 plus hours, it's real easy to keep filling that plate up.
And the director's gonna have an inherent need, if that person has any common sense, to be seeking out your input, to touching base with you. Hey, are we moving in the direction that you all are satisfied with? Are there additional resources we need to be lobbying City Hall or City Council to try and get? Or, I mean, you know, a good example, Craig has hiring and firing authority with regard to city staff, including department heads, okay? Do you think it would be politically wise for him to just go fire chief without first getting, without first getting, you know, sharing his concerns with the city council and getting their input? I mean, would that be a wise decision?
No.
No.
Probably not.
But can he legally go ahead and fire chief without input? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So there are certain things that, just as a practical matter, and just hopefully with common sense, there will be a built-in need for them to confer with you and to get your input on certain things. For you to share your input, you know, in terms of, hey, how is the director doing from your perspective? You know, when performance evaluations come around, it's important to get feedback and information from 360 degrees, okay? And so maybe you guys should be providing your input as part of that evaluation process, as one additional data point.
Craig gives us a written evaluation every year, and we have to go through it and fill it all out, and, that is something that could be part of this process. I mean, at this point, trust has obviously been broken, and we're working together, or trying to work together to build it back. And so, I mean, mainly going forward, we have to put the duties together for this full-time position, and that has to be the priority, even over transportation. So,
And then we're here to help figure out the rest, like the evaluations and the other things, and I mean, I've heard it, I think just also ensuring that if you guys are having a challenge with the director or anything else, that the chain of command or what you need to do is laid out for you guys as well a little more clearly. Because I think like on both ends of the stick, like I've heard, well, what is the proper step? Who should we talk to? What's the best place? Because you feel brushed off, and so I think at some point here soon we need to clarify that as well, and what that looks like for you, so you feel like your resources and you're not.
The same with, like, if you look at our bylaws included our feedback and participation in evaluation, but we didn't have a say in evaluation this last year. So what I would like to see, and I think that would help avoid confusion, is whatever we put in writing, that we try to honor it and we try to follow it, because where it causes confusion is where we're going off with something in writing and it's constantly changing without that communication or notification or the reason why or our feedback.
We'll
Then
fix
it's like,
that.
oh.
That's a great transition. So I want to respect time because we are up at 5 p.m. I want to leave you guys, and the mayor, sometimes he steals my thunder with the better concluding remarks than me. I know you will, even without my
He's
but
thinking really hard, I can tell.
I'm praying right now, which I always do, you don't see it.
based on all the things we've heard from everyone tonight, which has been super valuable, thank you so much. We're going to be working over the next few days because we're in some bit of a time crunch. You guys are running the show over there. We need to get somebody hired, so we don't want to rest on our laurels, but also sprinting is maybe a bit of what got us in trouble the first go around, so we want to make sure we're giving it the appropriate due diligence. So based on everything, we are working on some revisions to the bylaws, which we will get out to you guys. Some of the ideas that have been shared, we will certainly implement. I love the idea of having, maybe you guys could appoint 2 or 3 people if you have an executive committee within your advisory board, say your chair, your treasurer, what have you, secretary. Maybe those 3 could be involved in the personnel review for the director in some form or fashion. We can certainly incorporate that in there. We're going to clean up some of the lines of authority based on the feedback that we received tonight from you guys. And we're going to share that back out. And I'm hoping that the council, with your input, and you can continue to provide that, please do, will be passing an ordinance and new bylaws, hopefully at the April 7th council meeting. I feel comfortable enough at this point that based on the feedback we received, we can tweak the job description that McGrath Consulting recently put together for us, incorporating your input. Based on the things you believe they need to be doing, we'll make those changes. A lot of the stuff in there is just legal jargon. We'll be working with Ryan to make sure we've got that salary issue ironed out, and we'll go ahead and post that full-time position, hopefully by the end of next week at the latest. And one thing that we didn't discuss tonight that I just mentioned to Brooke today, maybe earlier this week for the first time, but I've been discussing one-on-one with council, is we're kind of to the point now where once we get this issue fixed, we really need to continue looking ahead. So what I'd like to do is budget to do a strategic plan with the Public Policy and Management Center at Wichita State University next year for the Senior Center specifically, where they will bring in members of their staff or a third-party consultant that are experts in helping nonprofits and municipal departments wade through these issues, do strategic vision setting, and chart a path forward. Maybe it'll be a 5-year plan, kind of leading up to what we are hoping will be some facility improvements, in that 4 to 5 year time frame, maybe sooner if God is willing. So that's kind of after we get this fixed, a next step. in 2027, we want to do some strategic planning with our new director, with the Senior Center Advisory Board, the City Council, but also the broader public. Those strategic plans include community engagement with all the senior citizens and really anyone in the public that wants to be a part and give their input. So that's kind of what we are seeing as a path forward. We're going to continue to engage with you guys. We've already got a advisory board meeting coming up Monday next week, right? So we'll be at that. It sounds like we really need to focus on the transportation program at that meeting, and then maybe setting up a workshop no later than the beginning of April to be prepared for that ban to come in July. It sounds like some groundwork's already been laid by the mayor and board member Mans and others.
That was Russ's deal. I just drove him over there because he needed somebody to drive him.
I hear a volunteer for a bus driver?
It was done on a volunteer basis, and I have no insurance. The one thing to add, I think it'd be really helpful at this point, in about 90 days, to reconvene.
I like that. 100%.
And then we can kind of review the progress and the things that have been made. And at that point, I think the van thing will be flushed out to some degree.
Well, hopefully you'll have a director on board who can also participate.
Right, exactly. But I think this has been, the dialogue's been very good. I appreciate all your honesty and sharing with us today. And I appreciate the staff here and their time and their overtime. We got to get them out of here. We can't afford to pay them.
Well, and thank you, Craig, for calling the meeting as well and helping
Everybody
get
get
everything bridged.
And don't rush to
It's a
get a
group effort.
director, make sure we find the right person.
Well, and you may have questions about what that process looks like. I mean, typically we've done a hiring panel that included the board chair and another board member. Probably do a similar route as we did previously, but if we need to change that up a bit, we can. So,
Is
yes.
it possible for you to have a draft of the new bylaws by our Monday meeting for us to look at before it goes to council for approval?
Before it's posted.
As in 6 days from now?
You got this, Ryan. You didn't have any good plans.
Are you planning to post it within 6 days?
Well, we talked about not wanting to rush, so probably not,
Well,
but
can
we'll work
it
on
just
it.
be shared with the board before?
Let me
it
see
goes
what
to
I can
council for
do.
approval, though?
I'm not gonna make any promises.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the point is
well,
just having it shared with us before
We're
it
not,
goes to council for approval.
we're not
So we
going
give our
to
input
put it on the
next
council agenda without you guys having some
Okay,
time to
okay,
provide
that's all I'm
your
saying.
feedback.
Thank you for coming.
I know. Councilwoman White, I'd like to agree with you. We have very strong women on our advisory board.
I think I'm a strong woman, so
with-
good about sometimes.
With the same heart.
Yes.
That's the difference.
I think
Having the heart. for the
somebody,
seniors.
we talk about this, I mean, this is not the only area, I do a lot of city events and we talk about this all the time, is doing things like this, whether it's paid or not, requires you to have the heart for Goddard itself and the people in Goddard, and, just from my understanding, I think that was lacking a little bit, and we'll do better about making sure that you guys get that this time.
It's not always about the paycheck.
No, we're not done, we need another hour.
That's the advantage of
I got
having
chilly
a
on
director.
that. Good night.
Thank you, everyone.
The last
Thank
time
you.
this was used, somebody about broke it. And Brooke didn't hear that.